Hello everyone, greetings from the 7th of Nero, AJ here, with another closer look at the military traditions of another faction or nation of Immoran and how it ties in with Warmachine and Hordes. Second only to the Legion of Everblight, if by more than 100 years, the Protectorate of Menoth is the most recent major player to come to prominence in the setting, even if they may not be the most recent in absolute terms. Definitively, they are the youngest of the titular Iron Kingdoms, but their longevity seems to be uncertain as of writing, what with the recent civil war, bloody and brief though it may have been. The full effects of the political fallout of their internal strife and Tristan Durant's departure with a fair proportion of Immoran's Menite remains to be seen. So what follows will be relevant more to the pre-claiming state of the Protectorate, and any relevance it may have to post-claiming Protectorate is unknown, but certainly reduced. But not completely, though, I'd suppose. As an elf, the ways of the Soul Menites as concerns making war are strange to me, even more so as compared to their fellow humans. The ritual and ceremony they subject themselves and their weapons of war to might be considered laughable, were it not for the undeniable effectiveness this seems to have on the fighting forces of Hierarchs Voil and Severius. Though one might say what they will of the armies of the Protectorate of Menoth, their strength in battle cannot be denied, irrespective of whether or not belief in Menoth has any actual material effect. Despite their nominally civil and liturgical responsibilities, the priesthood of the Protectorate of Menoth is as much a part of that nation's military as the fighting soldiers themselves. The highest echelons of the priests themselves are predominantly of Selese descent, though among the lower ranks are those of other ethnicities, such as Idrian. Other minorities exist, predominantly of those peoples of the Iron Kingdoms who have a certain proportion of Menites, many of whom emigrated to the Protectorate to escape local discrimination, when Morrowan-Menite relations were poorer than they are now. The priesthood, from a lowly clergyman to the head of state, the hierarch, have duties to their congregations, but it is very possible for any to be called to war, no matter their rank. Warcasters from the Protectorate can be found throughout the priesthood. Tristan Durant was not even a potentate when he was identified as possessing the Warcaster talent, while Severius rose through the ranks to Hierarch as a Warcaster. Away from such individuals, to whom a somewhat singular privilege of leadership is granted during times of war, priests can serve in war hosts in many other capacities. Some are seconded to allied units, whether to make sure they respect Menite ways when in service with Protectorate forces, or to serve more simply as a priest should they be willing to convert to the Sil Menite faith. However, most common are the priests who form the Choir of Menoth, those greatly knowledgeable of Hierarch Lugtin's teachings in how to sanctify and reinforce their warjacks. The senior members of the choir are the war priests, among whom a select few, raised to the rank of Hierophant, accompany and support warcasters. But service in battle is not restricted to priests of a lowlier rank, for even the Visigoths have been known to take the field when the necessity has arisen. Given their stature within the Protectorate, however, it is only natural for them to lead an honour guard at the very least. Allied to the priesthood in supporting the armed forces, if in different capacities, are a number of small, but nonetheless important, orders. The most spiritual, as it were, are the Reclaimers. They are bound by sacrosanct vows of silence thanks to hearing the voice of Menoth, something which normal humans are not, or rather should not be, privy to. Their primary duties are guiding the souls of the dead to Urkane and obeying the will of Menoth, if in a much more direct fashion than other Menites who live their lives through interpretation of sacred texts. They also have an as yet inexplicable link to the Protectorate's sanctified armoury of warjacks, able to grant the strength of the fallen to these constructs. How they do so I cannot say. More straightforward are the vassals of Menoth, who support warjacks in a manner which is more understandable for analogous branches in other militaries. Due to the severe restrictions placed on crafting mechanica, the vassals were formed by Hierarch Voil, consisting of arcanists captured from other nations to serve in this purpose, with direct oversight by the priesthood. Their expertise, drawn from across much of Western Immoran, is of great benefit, though how much legitimacy one places on this is a matter of perspective. On the more monastic side is the Order of the Fist, for whom Voil also gained official recognition when he was still young. The monks of this order consider Voil to be their exemplar, and their daily rituals reflect an ethos of austerity. This is further expressed in their fighting, which forgoes both arms and armour in favour of perfecting the capabilities of the unfettered mortal mind and body. And the last of these smaller orders is that of the Wall, whose membership is trained with protection of and mercy towards the people, the common Menite at least, at the forefront of their guiding philosophy. The oldest military tradition in the history of mankind, the Paladins of the Order of the Wall have remained true to their founding tenets, even if they have often come to be at odds with the Protectorate's leadership. This would, from the Protectorate's creation, lead to a decline in the Order's numbers and influence. But despite this, the Harbinger would call upon them as her attendants, High Paladin Dartan Vilmon first among them. Vilmon, as champion of both order and profit, inspired the Order's resurgence in the years after the recapture of Sul from Signar, all without compromising the values instilled in them. If there's anything which may be seen to be a binding principle linking the regular forces of the Protectorate, it is a great affinity for the concept of the cleansing fire. This was realized, in a material sense, in the refinement of oil discovered beneath the sands of the Bloodstone, into a volatile liquid euphemistically called Menoth's Fury, so named for setting alight even upon the mere exposure to air and sunlight. Developed by artificers during the middle years of Hierarch Turgis's reign in the early 500s AR, Menoth's Fury was first used to light sacred and undying fires in the temples of Menoth throughout the Protectorate. It was not long, however, before it was turned to the forges of Tower Judgment, the nation's armoury. Then it was only a matter of time until it was used in the Sul Menite's weapons of war. Deemed unsafe in man-portable weapons, it was used as a fuel in warjacks at first. But as the technology developed and understanding of Menoth's Fury increased, many elements of the army came to be equipped with Menoth Fury-based weapons. These include the bombs of the Deliverers and the spears of the Flame Guard. Not every martial order is given to using Menoth's Fury, though, for while appearances may give the impression they also use it, the exemplar Incinerators instead rely on sheer faith and the consecration of their ancient armour and oft-blessed weapons to deliver a fiery death to their enemies. Their swords are known to never become cold to the touch. As to the Protectorate's army as a whole, most of its numbers come from zealots among the people themselves. This branch is simply called the Deliverers, though what of I'm not entirely sure, presumably of Menoth's wrath, if battle cries and general demeanour in combat is anything to go by. The Deliverers are armed with reliable, but simple weapons which rain down explosive shells. The Holy Zealots themselves have nothing to propel their grenades but the strength of their arm, while the Sunburst Crews wield lumbering ballistae to pour fire upon enemy positions. These citizen soldiers hearken to a time when the Protectorate had no professional soldiery to call upon in times of war, so zealots would gladly answer the Synod's call to assemble before the nation's war banners. This tradition has remained, despite the elite corps available to the hierarchs and their commanders, for as the Protectorate's military has expanded, so too have their ambitions to match their capabilities. Indeed, such a concept of conscripts has only grown with the recruitment of the Idrians of the Marches who came to be under Protectorate rule. Though their conversion to the Menite faith is only comparatively recent, the Idrians are as much a part of the Protectorate's war effort as any of the other Sul Menite conscript forces, while being just as, if not more, important in the long run. Alongside these conscripts and citizen soldiers are the Knights of the Exemplar Order. The eponymous Knights Exemplar are the symbolic sword which strikes in defence of the Menite people on Cain. The order was founded on this principle, even if their true duties to the nation have expanded over time. Their origins are found in the days of the priest-kings as humanity established themselves in Western Amoran, fighting as their bodyguards during the Thousand Cities era. The earliest exemplars were mounted knights from the tribal horse lords, recently converted to the Menite faith, who quickly came to be known as Vengers in light of their execution of Menoth's judgment and enforcing his will. Though secularism and the Moran faith would supplant Menite belief, the descendants of the Horse Lords would maintain their ties with the Exemplar Order, and many Vengers, well into the modern era, would be followers of the old faith in Cador. Fighting with the Vengers would be the Knights, relic blades in hand, defenders of the faith in the Menite homeland, and Errants, defenders of they who spread the faith abroad. These foot soldiers remained few even until the Signaran Civil War, but that conflict would cause many to join the effort to secure independence for the Sul Menites. The Errants deserve special mention, as they are often tasked with more independent action away from the homeland. Their duties sometimes entail the capture and or execution of traitors, known heretical figures, and high-profile prisoners to be brought to justice at the command of the Synod. As such, they do not wield the Exemplar Order's characteristic relic blades, due to their value, both material and symbolic, which would invariably go to waste in the hands of those of insufficient zeal. Among the Exemplar initiates, though, are an elite cadre who submit themselves to the arduous training needed to don the Bastion heavy plate. The Exemplar Bastions and their even more venerated peers, the Incinerators, are among the most dedicated and disciplined warriors in service to the Protectorate, and rightly feared by those who behold them on the battlefield. While the Exemplars may be considered a secular knightly order, for a given definition of secular, A counterpart military force as far as the Menite temples are concerned is the Flame Guard. The two are considered of more or less equal prestige in the common Menite perspective, though politically the senior hierarchy of the exemplars, the High Exemplars and the Grand Exemplar himself, wields somewhat more influence within the Protectorate's sphere. Even so, the Flame Guard are not a force to be trifled with, whether on the field of battle or as an organisation which is pervasive in daily life in the Protectorate. Established with the explicit purpose of guarding the great temple to Menoth in Emer, the Flame Guard are a proud institution, boasting a history intertwined with that of the Protectorate itself, having been founded during the rule of and by Hierarch Solon himself. Born from the need to defend the Menite temples from zealous Morrowinds who desired the expulsion of Menites from Signaran lands, it was this resultant irregular militia which evolved into the Flame Guard, the formalised guardian force for temple grounds and those who wish to worship within them. Like the Exemplars, though, time, numbers, influence, and the Hierarch would see them expand in purpose and take on new form in a modern Protectorate army. Where the Temple Flame Guard hold the enemy fast, their zealous peers among the Cleansers immolate same said enemy, and Flamebringers skirmish and scout, finding weaknesses in enemy positions and identifying the battlefields where Protectorate forces are sure to win. Last of all are the Daughters of the Flame, of whom the Flamebringers are the mounted arm. A recent development, the Daughters were formed, with Voil's approval, by Fiora, the Priestess of the Flame at the time, to deal with the more covert operations against the perceived enemies of the Protectorate and the Temple. They do so both as spies and as assassins. And accompanying them all are the Priests of the Incendium, an order of clergy formed to see to the spiritual needs of the Flame Guard. Perhaps unsurprisingly, they serve in battle mostly among the Cleansers. In recent years, where the Exemplar Order took the lead in the Northern Crusade, the Flame Guard were largely responsible for the continuation of the Great Crusade against the Protectorate's enemies in the south, as well as the defence of Emer, the nation's capital. It is little secret that amidst their competing ambitions, the commanders of these two elite corps had little affection for each other, whether personally or politically, in the later years of Hierarch Voil's rule, which carried over into his successor, Hierarch Severius' tenure. Such were tensions between the two orders, which only worsened with the disbandment of the Northern Crusade and the return to Emer at the balance of the Exemplar forces. The animosity expressed by the order's respective leaders, the Protector of the Flame Fiora and the Grand Exemplar Kreos, only escalated, before it came to blows during the closing days of the defence against the Infernal Invasion. With Sovereign Durant's departure with a large proportion of the Protectorate's people to the southern continent of Zu, it seems that no matter who won between Fiora and Kreos, their nation itself would be the one to see defeat. The Protectorate is now a fractured state, its ruling body having lost all legitimacy, and the office of Hierarch yet to be filled even after so many years since the death in battle of Severius. Should he deign to do so, Tristan's return to Imoran may be what is required to restore the Protectorate's fortunes and those of its armies.